Hello viewers, welcome and good afternoon. It's once again the Business Express show, and today we have a very good topic which I believe is going to touch quite a number of you and really motivate, not just touching you just per se, but I mean motivate you into being better people, and especially entrepreneurs, because we know this show is for entrepreneurs, and today we are talking dairy. Now before we go to the topic for the day, I need to mention that we have quite some special guests in the studio with us today. We have Ronald Mukasa from NTV Uganda. Ronald, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Charles. It's an honor to be here today to discuss an interesting topic, which I believe is the foundation of a lot of our economy as a country. Indeed,
when you talk about the economy, I was looking at one of the clips from the PSST, Ramadan Govi, and was trying to show us that actually the challenges, economic challenges we are facing or contending with in the country today are not just limited to Uganda, but they're a global phenomenon. Yeah. And of course, if you look at the broader discussion, many have looked at some of the areas that can help Uganda get back on track. Of course, we look at things like tourism, we look at things like services, we look at industry or manufacturing for that matter, but in between there, of course, agriculture is quite critical. And that's why today, of course, we felt with the partners, NTV Uganda, that we can talk about dairy farming. And still talking about dairy farming, it seems it's one of those low-hanging fruits that Uganda has. I remember that time when we had some issues with Kenya. I don't know whether they were resolved. And when I interrogated further, it came out that we seem to have a comparative advantage, comparative and competitive in dairy production.
Exactly.
But maybe we need to master a few principles to make it to the right space where we need to sit, not just within the region, but in the entire continent. But tonight, or this evening, viewers, we have an expert in dairy. He's a farmer and is going to be sharing with us his journey in dairy farming. But most importantly, we're going to be looking at the principles, the key values that you need to have and keep quite dearly if you're to make it in this industry. So, Mr. Simple, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you, moderator. I'm called Wagawa Simple. I come from Bushenyi district. I am a community development specialist with a background in natural resource and environment management. I have worked with many organizations about livelihood improvement, community development, and poverty alleviation. Currently, I am self-employed. I am a dairy farmer, and I have a passion for dairy farming.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that last hat is the reason why Simple is here. He's going to share his journey in dairy farming. He didn't begin yesterday. It's a journey, and it has quite some very interesting twists and turns, which I'm sure all of us are going to benefit from. But before we move any further in Simple's discussion, I'd like to play for you a small short video so that we get to know what Simple is doing on the ground, and that will set the stage for today's discussion. So I'm going to ask my producer to give us that video as we prepare to delve into the discussion.
I'm called Wagawa Simple. I am a dairy farmer. I started this farm long before when I started teaching. In 2000, I started the farm on a smaller scale. But with time, I kept enlarging it. I kept enlarging it and even changing the breeds until I reached a level where I am only looking after dairy animals. By 2006, we started delivering milk, and milk production has increased every year. As we improve on the farm, you improve the breeds, you improve milk production. So my major income is now from the milk. Like in 2010, there was a project of SNV. They took us for a training at our direct cooperative society, which is Chabujimbi Direct Cooperative Society. So we were trained. When they trained us, they supported us and installed water. We used to supply animals with water from the farm, and workers would carry water to the troughs. But this time it became labor intensive. I built a tank and I made a reservoir. I put a pump. Now I am able to pump my own water from the swamp to the tank, and then it flows by gravity to different paddocks. And now I am able to produce. Before, the water I used to produce between 70 to 100 liters a day. Currently, I'm producing between 100 and 150 per day. And this is because of management. We grow different species of grass, and we cut. For cut and carry, we cut and feed the animals for 1 hour from 9 to midday. They are feeding inside, and after that one, by 1 they start milking. After milking, then they go and graze on the farm. I love animals. I really treasure animals. When I'm looking at animals, I'm satisfied. But that is not the only thing. It makes money. It makes money. I learned that when I was working, money from the animals or milk was even much more than my salary. And so what was I going to look for outside? I came and started managing my own farm. I'm looking after Frisian animals, but I'm now breeding to Jersey animals. And I have also started diversifying. I grow fodder crops for the animals, but I've also started an acre of coffee alongside that one. That coffee is still young, but I have started from the presidential advice that you need different enterprises. But my major enterprise that gives us income in the home is now milk. I look after milking animals, milking cows. Yeah, the problem is the market. The market is always, the prices of milk fluctuate. We have different factories in Mbarara, and we belong to cooperatives. We have a cooperative in my sub-county, Chabujimbi Direct Cooperative Society, and we collect milk at the center in the whole district. Different districts bring milk together, and then we market at Bushenyi Dairy Industry Cooperative Union. Then people come and pick the milk, and then we are paid through cooperatives, societies. There are 3 components I have run on the farm. One is feeding, proper feeding at the right time. 2 is animal health, and 3 is the animal breed, the breed. If you have the 3, you look after the 3. Now, number 1 is you ensure the animals have enough feeds, grass and then the feeds. Now, I started the semi-zero grazing because once you are feeding animals, once they stable down, they produce more. Animals are like human beings. They need comfort. You know, they have been feeding on the paddock, but you need to increase because they feed in a paddock every week. They change the paddock. Now, the last days of the week, you increase the feeds because the grass has reduced. That's when they give you enough milk. But that's not only. That's not all. You must ensure the animal is healthy. Now, healthy is that we dose them every 3 months. I do it actually. Some time back I used to dose and then maybe 3, 4, 5 months, but this time it is strictly 3 months. You have to dose them. Then spraying, I used to spray weekly. actually spray weekly. But once they are going to change a paddock to a new paddock, that day you have to spray, because they find the ticks waiting for them. And the drugs have a problem. We don't trust them now. Currently, I've had many people complain. So we ensure feeding and then the animal health. I have a vet. I actually give him a monthly stampede, some retainer. He comes and treats animals, we pay. Now, if you are keeping like 30 animals like I'm doing now, I have 35 of them, and we are milking 28. Now, oh yeah, the community is benefiting. The neighbors buy milk from me. The neighbors, I have given species of grass, which we bought, different species, to different people who are interested. One time I told you, I think when you were coming, I have given 8 people, each one a cow, for zero grazing, those who are able to grow the grass, so that many people can start on this. Now I have 5 boys here, especially for milking and cutting the grass. I increased the workers, there used to be 3, but because I give fresh feeds, I don't make silage. I tried silage, but it's not the best. I don't make hay. You will see a sample of hay which we made inside there. Now, for us, I prefer fresh grass. Every morning, cut the grass. I have had 3 sessions. The community members, the dairy, especially at our cooperative, they come here to learn. We sit here in my compound, we go to the farm, we train. You know, this dairy enterprise is not a classroom-based. People come to the farm. If it is milking, they see how it is being milked, how a cow is milked, how a cow has been feeding, why I separate troughs. But of course there are a number of challenges. People around my farm keep goats, they don't spray them. But they want to feed on the grass. They push the goats in my farm, and when you chase them, they feel very bad. In the first place, this was my vision. I cherish cows. Now I have them, I am happy. My children have all finished university except one daughter. I have 4 children, they have finished university. Currently I have 62 acres. So every year I would sacrifice, save money, buy. I'm learning how to process yogurt, so that if I can sell yogurt from my own farm, it would make sense. So once an animal is treated, the vet has to record in the book, this animal has been treated because of this disease, and we have used the following drugs. So next time he comes, he has to follow. So we make records, how much milk do we carry per day in the morning, how much milk have we delivered in the evening. Sooner or later you're going to say, I've just finished milking. They are going to feed calves now. After feeding calves, a transporter will come. But before he goes, he has to record and sign and takes the milk. Then when he gets there, the manager at the dairy will also record what he has received and return this passbook. And this is what comes to me. Then I go to verify the other records that have been made. So it helps. Secondly, you are able to know how much money I have spent on the farm every month and how much have I got. Am I making business? So I have now learned that the production of my animals, 15 days when they pay, is enough to pay workers for a month and the drugs for the animals. And what remains in the next 15 days is for me and my house.
Dear viewers, welcome back, and that's the story of Simple. And of course our model on this show is, we look at 2 things. Of course we look at the business principles side, but then we also share with you, the practical experiences of these entrepreneurs and the technical aspects, because today we are speaking dairy, And I'm sure you've seen Simple walking you through, you know, the actual technical stuff if you're going to manage, you know, a small dairy farm, which I'm sure quite a number of people that have gone into this sector are actually doing, because we don't have very many large dairy farmers in this country, but many of us have maybe tried here and there, you know, to do, you know, some simple animal rearing and gone into that space, and we pick very key principles there. But Ronald, you're the expert here. I don't know what you're picking from Simple's submission.
Thank you so much, Charles. I think there are a number of messages coming through from Simple's story. First of all, it has been a long journey, and I hope that the viewers captured that, the fact that he has been at this game for over 20 years, and he started small, as he mentioned, in 2000. And I think there are a couple of interesting things that come up. The first thing is the key success factors of any industry. I think he mentioned that he works in a group, a cooperative, and that is where that helps at least find the market for his product. And the people who are in the various value chains, agriculture value chains, it's very important to appreciate how important that is for the success of you in a, when you are doing it on your own and you produce your 150 liters, but you don't have someone to be able to take them or to negotiate a good price for you, then that creates a problem. He talked about the use of professionals, and I think this is something which is often ignored. He said he has a vet on a retainer, and in many businesses, and not just agriculture, usually professionals are not taken seriously. People say, "Oh, the man just comes and injects the cow. I think I can also inject it," and then you make a big mistake, because this is someone who has gotten education on this and has experience in it. So in the industry which you're in, you have to ask which professionals are key, and they have to be the right professionals. That's certainly right. You hope the professionals bring value to your business, but it's also very dangerous to ignore professionals in your business, because you can lose a very big investment if you don't do that. He talked about records and how important they are. I hope people captured that at the end of his the montage. Mentioned that 15 days are for the workers and costs 15 days are mine. Now, many people in their businesses, they don't know which days are theirs. You start the week and then you are eating the worker's salary instead of making sure that you are keeping the worker's salary. So records are very important. I hope Mr. Simple will talk a bit more about that, because it's very, very critical to be able to do that. But I thought one final message which came out, which was interesting, is this journey of coming from a professional. I know many of the listeners are right at the crossroads. They say, at what point do I actually say I can go and be a full-time farmer? So Mr. Simple has been running this for close to 20 years. But a point reached and he said, I actually see that the money which is coming from my farm is even more than the salary I have. And I think it's very important to be honest to yourself. Some people say, I'm very angry at my boss, I think it's time to leave. That's not a good idea. You need to ask yourself that, is the business ready to take me and my expenses? Because don't forget that when you are coming into the business, you bring school fees to the business. Mr. Simple said he still has a child who is in school. So when you bring the school fees cost to the farm, can the farm be able to contain that cost? So it's important that we, as in any business we are, but specifically in agriculture, you have to ask yourself, do I know? Because some of us are doing farming in such a way that you don't even know whether you're making money or you are not. But you need to know that the business is ready for me and it can be able to sustain.
I hear you. Record keeping is very, very critical, and I think it's the way you establish that. So, Simple, I'll come to you. Of course, there were so many other business ideas you could have pursued. You know, you were a professional working with fairly good organizations, but you said dairy. Why dairy farming?
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers. I selected dairy farming as an enterprise, and I developed a passion from my uncle, called Mr. Katambara in Bushenyi. He's a Muslim. He had many children than my father had, but he was able to pay fees in good schools than my father could. Besides, their children were taking tea and were unable to take tea.
In the morning?
In the morning. So I loved the cows, the dairy cows. When I started working, by 2000, I had saved some money from my salaries. I would save money, and by 2000, I had bought a cow. I requested him to keep it for me. 2001, I bought another one. And by 2004, I had 4 animals. And he asked me to take them away because they were overgrazing his land, his farm. Now, I sold the cows and added on some money. I bought 4 acres of land, and I remained with no cow. 2 years later, I bought some other 2 calves, and I started keeping them using some workers. I would go to work in town, in Mbarara. I would go to work in Kasese, but come and monitor. 3 years later, I had 4 or 5 animals. So I started the business. They were able to deliver, and I started selling milk. So I started like that. In 2010, I had a turning point on my farm. I think I had raised to 9 cows, and I lost 4 of them in 1 year because of East Coast fever, because of ticks. The neighbors would bring their goats in my farm, and it was hard. But I didn't give up. I had a passion for dairy animals. I had a commitment. I was committed to it. But largely, I loved dairy farming. I enjoyed it. With dairy farming, you get money. It's a profitable, rewarding business, but it demands hard work. You must work hard.
Hold it there, Simple. Ronald, I want to come back to you on this, because if you look at Simple's journey, you see 1, focus, and then 2, passion. You know, it goes right from the beginning, from 2 cows, which you can't even graze, you don't have land for them, and you say, I'll keep them at the neighbors. This time it was his uncle's place. And, you know, you grow, then you lose. Because there are many times when people tend to jump ship, especially when hard times hit. They're like, you know what, I think, I have friends who have done over 8 businesses in 2 years. Because every time they face, you know, hard times, they're like, it's time to try something else. I don't know what you pick from that submission and what we can, you know, dissect for the viewers.
Yeah, I think for all of us, for the people who are watching the show, and all of us as entrepreneurs, one of the most challenging things is to know what exactly you are passionate about. And after you find out what you are passionate about, there is the question of whether you can convert it into cash. Because the two are not the same. You can be passionate about something that you can't convert into cash. But I think it's very good that we see that Mr. Simple knew clearly that this is what I am passionate about. And usually passion is very helpful when you're starting, very helpful in the difficult times. Mr. Simple said in 2010, he lost 4 cows to East Coast fever and ticks. Now,
out of the 9, almost 50%.
Yes. Now, we need to notice that 2010 was 365 days. It was a full year. It means that you can lose for a long period of time. It's not a week or 2 weeks, but this is a period. And almost every entrepreneur who has shared on this platform, there is that season of loss. And it seems like you need to have persistence and passion to walk through that painful process, because it seems like it's part of every entrepreneur's journey. So we need to know that anyone who is starting out in business needs to know this time will come. And it sometimes doesn't come immediately. For Mr. Simple, it came 10 years later. Possibly things were looking up. Now it seems like you are flowing, and then you are hit by this. We have just come out of COVID, and we have seen people who have lost. I mean, if you talk to someone in the education sector, he would tell you, I never imagined they would be closed for a year. I mean, if someone was taking a loan he said, no, first time I will pay you this, second time I will pay you this. But the idea that 3 times you wouldn't be able to make revenues is a bit out of there. So whichever business you are in, you need to know that that season comes. That's why you need your passion, that's why you need your persistence. But I also liked what Mr. Simple started with, of someone who you admire. It is very, very important. And usually the people we admire are not very far. People will talk about the big entrepreneurs in the country, big entrepreneurs in the world, but usually they're within our families. He said it was that simple idea
that in this family people were taking tea consistently in the morning and we were struggling.
And there were many.
And there were many. And there were many children. And they are going to good schools.
Yes.
And we need to ask ourselves, have we picked the lessons? Because we shouldn't stop at admiring and saying that my uncle is can take his children to good schools. But Mr. Simple went a step further and actually established what exactly is this man doing. Say, this man is actually a farmer. And a dairy farmer. That means this thing makes money because these children are going to what? To school. So you need to ask yourself, have you picked the key lessons from the people you admire? And we all need to make sure that we are pulling that out.
And we keep them close. Because I like the idea that he took his first animals to this same person.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, that speaks a lot.
The fact that your business partner may be within your family. Now, there are two things you can go and tell your uncle. You can go and tell your uncle, do you have 200,000? My children are not going to school. Give me 200,000. Lend me 200,000. There, your uncle won't be very happy to receive you. But when you go and say, my uncle, I want to add my cow to your farm. So this is a man who is looking in the right direction because he has discovered the secret to my success. And I think there is another key message which Simple mentioned. At the beginning, he wasn't buying 20 cows. He wasn't buying 10 cows. He bought just a cow. And for the young people who are listening, it's important to notice that on your first salary, you could work a whole year and manage to buy only one cow. And it's okay. It is progress. And you shouldn't say that, but one cow, when will I get there? It will take a bit of time. But the truth is that when you are starting out, he said, I saved some money and I bought a cow and I took it there. Now, some of us come from communities which have different economic activities. Some people come from communities where when your uncle calls you, he says, there is a chibanja which they are selling here, and that may be what you need to save towards. Other people are in communities where, yes, it's cows, it's goats, but you need to ask yourself, is there evidence? I think when I look at, I think Mr. Sipo said his uncle was called Mr. Katamba. Mr. Katamba looked at Katambala.
Yeah, Katambala Sulaiman.
Sulaiman Katambala. So Mr. Sulaiman looked at Simple and said, this is a man on a journey who I know will get there. Because he has understood that you start small, you start with a cow, and I believe that's why he welcomed his cow into the farm. So you need to ask yourself, have I picked those lessons? And if you are starting out, you're a young person, you need to ask yourself, can I at least buy a cow for the year?
Beautiful, beautiful. In fact, it was a question I was going to put to Mr. Simp as well. It's good you've actually touched a little. Because many a time we see, especially people who, because you know this show speaks to both the people in mid-career and those who in quotes will say have arrived. I've seen people who always want to start big. Now when they watch this show and they are fired up, the next thing they want a square mile of land.
Yes.
Then they want to go and bring probably 300, 200 dairy cattle and then put it there.
Yeah.
And boom, they start.
Some people will say, I want to start small with 20 acres. That is how small looks like.
Exactly. So because I was going to ask, and I wanted to pick I want to pick Simple's mind. What should be the right way to start dairy farming?
Thank you, Charles, and viewers. The right way to start is a passion. You must like the business you do. Once you do something you like, something you love, then you do great work. Now you can start small. And when you start small, you can keep improving. You need, animals will demand land. You must have land, but you don't have to have a square mile. You don't have to have big land. Today, the technology has improved. You can have a small, 1 acre is enough. You keep an animal and 1 acre to grow improved forages. Today, there is technology. You look at improved technologies, you look at improved forages, which have high nutrients. Then you grow the grass. You are able to feed a cow or two, and you can improve from there. Now, a cow is wonderful. Once you start with 1 cow, 1 year later you have 2 from the same cow, but you will have saved money to buy another cow if you have the passion. The problem is, once you have the passion and the mission or the goal you are pursuing, and you get obstacles, you get problems along the road. Along the journey you encounter some problems, like dairy farming has problems. But one important thing, viewers, is that when you get problems, you don't change the goal. You don't change the mission, you change the strategy, you change the method of work, but keep the goal, you will arrive. And most important is, many people want a free problem life. You are meant to solve certain problems. You just have to understand that problems are part of the process. If you are developing, if you want to be successful, problems are part of the process, and the way you solve them, the way you manage them
is very important.
Is very important to bring you success.
Beautiful, well put. Now, you mentioned 3 key factors to make it in this business. And I remember, I think one of them is feeding, then the breed, and a third one. If you can just briefly talk about those factors and how important they are in this business.
Thank you, Charles, Ronald, and viewers. When you have a passion for dairy farming, you need the best out of the animals. You must select the breeds that will give you a large amount of milk. Yeah. For example, the breed you select matters a lot. We have different breeds on the market, in the community, in the country. We have the Jersey breed, we have the Frisian breed, we have the Guernsey breed. There are so many. But once you have studied through some practical experience, you look at an animal, then that animal is it the animal that I will have the enough feeds for it? So the breed matters a lot.
I hear you.
You select the breed that will give you the milk. But the breed you have selected will not give you milk, the milk you want, unless you feed it well.
Yes.
And on the right nutrients. So in the past, people used to do dairy farming on a free range. We have recently learned from improved technologies that you need to feed the animal very well in order to give you the right amount to break even.
Yes, sir.
So you feed well, you look for, and you grow improved forages which have high levels of nutrients. You feed the animals at the right time, they will be comfortable to give you the milk. But another important thing to note is that animals or cows are living things. They fall sick like you. And for them, they fall sick more often than human beings.
We tend to treat animals like animals.
People tend to treat animals as animals, but you need something from them.
Yeah.
You need milk, you need money from them. Actually, a dairy cow is a factory for money, for making money. So you must look after it. And you need to know that it feeds on grass. Grass is from anywhere, from the environment. And if you are cooking, boiling water to drink, cooking food, and you want hot food, you are not going to cook water, to boil water for the animal. It feeds on fresh grass, which is contaminated. So you must give it the health it needs, health care. You must treat it. It must be treated, and by the right personnel, the vet doctors, the extension workers. Unfortunately for our country, and this is the message I'm sending to the president, all human drugs are free. You got health facilities in the country, the drugs are free. But the drugs for animals are private and expensive on commercial grounds. Even if you get a vet doctor or an extension worker, if you don't pay, he will not come, or she won't come. So you spend money on treating animals, buying drugs, and acaricides. That's why we have fake, most of them are fake, because it is a liberalized trade. Anybody can import anything. I am sending the message that if we are getting human drugs free, why don't we get animal drugs, at least at a subsidized price, so that this backbone, this agriculture, can increase and brings more output to sustain our country. Yeah. So
now moving to, that's beautiful. Just touching your experience as a dairy farmer, what are some of those, good things, some of the boxes you've ticked, ever since you've gone into this business, that you say, well, I'm here, or I've seen this because of this business? Just before I bring in Ronald.
Number one is that, thank you so much, Ronald. Number one is that if you are keeping dairy farming, it brings income on a daily basis. You need cash flows.
Yeah.
You may have worked, those of you who are working in civil service or whatever, you may have income and have assets. But at one time, you will need cash flows.
In fact, someone was talking about how many Ugandans of a certain age are really asset rich, but cash poor. And that's also a trap of sorts.
I have seen many people who have retired from civil service dying out of retirement stress. They have assets, but they don't have the regular cash flows. There will be a funeral, there will be a party. Christmas is ahead, is coming. Are you going to sell the house? Are you going to sell a plot because you have to attend Christmas? Because you have to attend someone's party? So at some age, you need cash flows to manage. Even every time at home, you need cash flows to manage life. Children are going to school, you need essentials in the house. So you need some cash flow. And dairy farming is one of the assets that brings in cash flows on a daily basis. You did the milking at 6 a.m. By after lunch or 1 p.m. you are milking again. And that's money. It comes in. But it calls for hard, unavoidable work. You must have the zeal to work. You must not lose your resilience. You must monitor, and you can't do it alone.
Good. So we'll get back to that point, Mr. Simple. Ronald, what do we pick from here? What are the quick takeaways there?
I think what we see with Mr. Simple is that he has a good understanding of the key success factors in his business. He has talked about having the right breeds. He has talked about making sure the animals are well fed. He has talked about the health care of the animals. I think what's important for the people who are in business who are listening is to ask, do I actually know the key success factors in my business? Because different businesses have different key success factors. If you work in a market, you arriving 1 hour late could change your sales for the day significantly. If you are offering, if you have a supermarket, for example, your key success factors might be that you need to make sure that the right products are on the shelf and they are not expiring on the shelf. So every business owner needs to answer those questions and say, these are my key success factors. But I think what is also equally important is to notice that the entrepreneur is constantly dealing with external forces and internal forces. I think Mr. Simple talked about the challenges of drugs. Some of them are possibly fake and they're on the market. Now, what that usually calls for is that the entrepreneur needs to go an extra mile, because this is the environment in which the entrepreneur is dealing. It means you have to be a bit more careful about which drugs have been given to the animals. You have to be careful that is this the right qualified person to work on the animals? And you need to notice that even amidst that environment, profit can be made. Now, more profit could have been made if we had better drugs on the market, but the point is that the entrepreneur needs to push back. And this is what we usually call the internal versus the external locus of control. You need to ask yourself, what things are in the environment that are not in my control? Mr. Simple is clear that actually the drugs which arrived to him in Wushenyi, he doesn't have control over, and I think he has made an appeal to the government to be able to deal with that. But even amidst that environment, he has gone ahead to say that even in this environment, I need to make sure I keep my animals safe. He talked about the quality of the water which he has been giving his animals. What he is saying there is that I know that if I let my animals drink any water in any pond, I am increasing my risk for my for my animals, and I need to ensure that that happens. So the entrepreneur's job is to appreciate what is in the environment that is not in my control, but also go further and say, how can I push back? Then I think one final point which he made when you asked him about the benefits is this, the cash flow. I think it's a very interesting thing to look at, and you not whichever agriculture enterprise you go into, you need to ask yourself, how does the cash come in? Because if you go in coffee, cash may come in twice a year. If you go in chicken, it may come in after 3 months. When they start laying eggs, possibly it may come in consistently. But you have 3 months before that cash comes in. Now, understanding where the cash is coming from and at what point is very important, because it is what actually drives. If you want to look for financing, for example, if Mr. Simple goes for a loan, he can be able to predict that I can pay a loan on a monthly basis because I get cash on a monthly basis. However, if someone takes a loan and possibly you are into, say, a crop which you harvest every 6 months, the first 5 months you don't have cash. So you need to ask yourself, where is the money going to come from for that period? Because if you don't ask that question, then you threaten the whole investment, because you may get the wrong loan. Sometimes people should go to the bank to get an agricultural loan, but they get a salary loan instead, or they get a loan where they have to prepay on a monthly basis.
Yes.
And you find that the real stress the business is facing is because the wrong kind of financing, which didn't appreciate the cash flow of the business, is what they are following.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, Mr. Simple, I'll come back to you with this. Of course, when you mention the daily cash that dairy, presents, I mean, anyone in agriculture, not just agriculture, anyone in the world would love that. I mean, I remember when I opened my first bank account, one of the, best trips, or the trips that I would look out, to, is that trip to the ATM machine.
When the thing is there.
Because when the thing is there. Because I know I would start to figure out cash, coming out of this. So, I mean, cash flow, when we hear that, all our antennas go up. But I know, like they say, there's no free lunch. There's what has to be put into for that daily cash to actually keep coming. Now, here I want to look at the principles, again painted from your day-to-day activities as you manage your dairy farm. What does it take to actually keep that cash flowing in dairy farming? In other words, how best can someone look after a dairy farm? What are the principles, what are the virtues that you have to keep so dear for this to happen sustainably?
Thank you, Charles, Ronald, and the viewers. That's right. Dairy farming is profitable, is rewarding, and gives dairy cash flows. But they don't just rain from the sky. They don't fall on you from the sky. I said from the beginning, dairy farming demands hard, physical, practical work. You must work. For example, the animal must be satisfied to give you milk. If it is not satisfied, if it's not healthy, it will not give you the milk. So you must ensure that the animal is fed very well. Then in the morning, for example, at my farm, after milking, the milkers or the boys at the farm have to go and cut the fresh grass. And I must ensure that this cut grass, the feeds, has been mixed properly, because different forages have different nutrient levels. I grow different species of grass, for example, Napier, Desmodium, Morato, Cobra. These are improved breeds. So I ensure each garden has provided something. The boys have to prepare the feeds. Now, I increase the feeds by putting in maize bland or wastes from the beer factory. I mix them. But I must monitor how they are being done, and on a daily basis. I said from the beginning that even if you don't feel like working with a dairy farm, you must work. You can't close. It's not a shop that you can close and go away. So if you feed the animal properly, then you must monitor that people come and
do the job.
And do the job.
Beautiful.
And then they milk. They on a daily basis. Even if you have barrier in the house, your own house, the animal must be milked whatsoever. So you must do some delegation. And that's why you have high labor turnover. It is high. But in 2018, Enterprise Uganda staged the training in Kabo, where I attended it. I learned something about human resource. Okay. Today, my workers at the farm are better paid. And it is not easy for anyone to come and steal my workers, because you not pay them and manage. Share with us the
deeper story on that training.
Yeah, we had a training in business management and human resource management. Okay. My biggest topic, I had covered some, my biggest topic where I learned a lesson was on human resource management. If you take a biggest margin of the profits and you do not consider the customers, the internal customers who are the workers at the farm, they will leave you. They will steal. They will do many other things. But if they are comfortable, even when you threaten to send them away, he will think about losing this money. So I think my workers were paid, I think, 150 per month, the boys. The manager was being paid 200. They are all boys. After the training, I went and increased their salaries. The last one is 200, and the manager is 150 on a monthly basis. 2, they produce milk. Each one must have a liter of milk per day. I learned it from Enterprise Uganda. Now, if I'm here now on the show, I have hailed for all the way from Bushenyi. I know they will do the job very well.
Beautiful.
The one who is a record keeper will ensure the transport of the milk has taken the right liters and has recorded them, and the other one has signed for them. So rewarding people who work. Most of my fellow dairy farmers want to harvest a lot of money and don't consider the workers. It is important, if you know a dairy farm requires constant monitoring and working, and not only hard working but hard work, to feed the animals very well, to love the animals, because if you are going to milk a cow and you beat it, it may not give you the milk. So you must create that passion among the workers even.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Because, you know, these are the guys who are dealing with these animals. So I've seen actually animals being caned, like, you know, but I know the number of people who watch this show and they have an 8 to 5 job. They work in Kampala, but they really would love, for instance, they have a passion for animals. I know a couple. I don't know, what kind of advice would you give such a person? If I have this office job, maybe I could be in Kampala, I could be working in Bushenyi, I could be working in Barara. What advice would you give me, you know, on how to manage or how to go about this?
Oh, thank you, Charles. In fact, I'm going to give you my own experience. When after university, I went to teaching, and I was at a distance. My boss learned that I was starting a farm, and I had bought a Frisian cow.
Okay.
And he called me and said, please, how can you put a Frisian cow that is going to die the next day, and you are here? I said, my dear friend, many people in Nairobi, they have farms in Kabale, and the farms are progressing. You are not going to do work everything alone on this world. You must delegate. That's why I went to school. I delegate people. But even after delegation, you must do constant, routine monitoring, because the industry is versatile. If there is anything anybody can steal, is milk. Because it is cash. It is cash. And many people like to take milk.
It can even be drunk there. That's the point.
Straight away, people drunk from there. So you cross monitoring and record keeping. Train them on making records. But you are not going to do dairy farming alone. It's not possible. So you must use other people. So I started when I was monitoring, and for many years, until 2019, when I said I went home in 2020, I stopped working because the pressure was too high at the job and at home on my farm. And I saw I was going to betray my employer. I was going to give him a wrong time. So I said, no, let me stop here. And it took me time, it took her time to accept to lose me. But all the same, I said, I'm going home.
Beautiful, beautiful. Ronald, I want to come back to you. Quite very interesting points there, right from the point of delegation, you know, to the point of human resource management, and doing what you do, but at the same time being able to satisfy your bosses. Because I can see with his hustle, you would think that he was cheating on the time where he had his 8 to 5, but clearly, if by the time you're leaving, your boss is saying, please don't go, it tells you that the balance was quite right. I don't know, what do you, distill from that?
I think Mr. Simple kind of gives us a number of key lessons in this. First of all, paying your employees well and on time. I think it's such a powerful message, and I believe not just in dairy farming, but across the board. It is very important that you make sure your employees are paid, and they are paid well. Every employee will have, there are what they call employee surveys, where they say what's the average salary in the corporate world. This company pays like this company. But even in the informal sector, even on the farm, there is an employee survey. It happens in the trading center. They say, you, what are you getting? Me, I'm getting 200. You, what are you getting? Me, I'm getting 100.
They compare notes.
And when they compare that employee survey, they will quickly say, I think I am getting below the average. When they are earning above the average, they will know that I'm very well treated in that job. I am one of the people who milks the cows, but I'm earning 200,000. In my town, say in my town where we gather in the evenings, people know that fellow is a big person. Actually, people are looking for my job because I'm one of the highest paid milkers in the trading center. So paying the employees is critical, but also making sure you are paying them on time. And it is very, very important to notice that if I am milking a cow and I milk it every day, I think Mr. Simple is lucky to have a business where money comes every day. But even though you have employed someone on your coffee farm to weed, he expects his pay on time. And that pay on time, the first day he starts thinking about stealing the milk is the day when his salary is late. Says, by the way, and Mr. Simple has told us milk is cash. As the man rides it to the trading center, he says, but I haven't picked my salary, why don't I pick it from this milk? And that creates a problem.
Picks a liter, adds
some water and says, okay, at least we are balancing the boat. Now the point is here is that you need to ensure that you are paying your employees on time and you are paying them well. Then systems. I think there's something which Mr. Simple mentioned in passing that is here and the farm is going on. Now you need to understand that every business needs systems. And you need to understand which systems need to exist. At what time are the cows milked? At what time is the milk delivered to the center where they collect it? Who took the record of how much was delivered? Those systems need to be clear. So that even though Mr. Simple spends an entire weekend in Kampala, when he goes back on Monday, he can say, what happened on Saturday? Show me. What happened on Sunday? Show me. Now, if in your business it seems like for you to even go and visit a son in another town, you have to lock the shop, then that means that the only system that exists is you. And you need to say, how can I get another system which allows me to at least have 2 days? Because the truth is, on the day Mr. Simple gets sick, they don't go and tell the cows that today, you know what, don't bring milk because Mr. Simple is what? Is sick. The milking needs to continue, the process needs to continue. So every business needs to make sure that the systems are being built. You talked about delegation. I think for the process of finding the right people, you need to have a recruitment process. Even someone who is going to milk, you have to have a process of how do you recruit that person and how do you train them to be the right people who can be able to do that job. All our businesses need to do that. I think finally on this important question of the tension between those people who are employed and they have a side hustle. I mentioned earlier that you need to know at what point do I cross. I think Mr. Simple made a very objective decision that my farm can be able to look after me. Currently, at this point, I can be able to retire. However, that's a decision which he has been working on for the last 10 years. So it was just a moment in time that I can be able to do that. Now, he talked about the fact that you should delegate, but you have to monitor. Now, that means that if you have a farm and it is somewhere in Chiboga, at 5 o'clock on Sunday, you wake up and you shoot for Chiboga, to be able to be there early to see what happens. Now, you say, but I wake up at 5 o'clock every day to go to work and drop children to school and do all those things. And even on Sunday, you want me to wake up early. But the business demands you to do that. That is the routine monitoring. It's not enough to say, send me a WhatsApp picture of the little one who was born. No, you have to make sure that that monitoring is there. And the point I want to make here is that it's a very uncomfortable process and exhausting process, because you are on that road on Sunday morning, 5 o'clock every day, every Sunday, and you do it again and again for 3 years, so that you give yourself permission for a day to come to say, I can be able to depend on this business. So you can't take away the heavy lifting of the entrepreneur.
Beautiful, beautiful. Of course, we know, I mean, you have to put in the investment, and that's the investment. It's not just in money, but the time as well. All right, viewers, you can be part of this discussion. We have the story of Mr. Simple from Bushenyi. He's a dairy farmer, and he has shared with us the principles from where he sits that have made him succeed at what he's doing. And again, like I said, you can be part of this discussion. So We're going for a very short commercial break, but when we return, my producer is going to be flashing that WhatsApp number. I know the number of questions and comments. Some that already have the number have started sending some of the questions already. Yeah, but in this next segment, we're going to be looking into some of those questions, as of course, Mr. Simple here shares with us his aspirations for the future after the break. Dear viewers, welcome back. It's again the Business X-Ray Show, and today we're looking at how you can make it in the dairy farming business. And the story we have today is the story of Simple. Simple is from Busheng, or Greater Busheng, and he's a dairy farmer. Of course, he has had a very, very interesting journey. Started small and then grew his herd to where it sits today. He feels he's comfortable because the cash flow is good. And that's one of the key advantages or benefits that a dairy farmer gets. I know there are quite a number of farmers, Ronald. I've done some bit of farming myself as well, but you know, cash flow in farming, it's a game of patience for starters, especially when it comes to matters cash. Now, when someone hears that this is something that can give you cash on a daily, really it's quite something. You know, for anyone in the farming business. But Simple is here. He has told us it doesn't come easy. There are certain virtues that someone has to respect and keep so dear in order for them to realize that. Now, Simple, coming back to you, so where you are today, how do you normally deal with challenges? You know, the challenges that you face in this business, because you said at the beginning that, yeah, it's good business, but it doesn't come that easy. You have to really put in, but then also you have to contend with a number of things. Of course, you've mentioned or shared with us how you deal with workers, but I'm very sure there's much more to that. You mentioned a little about, you know, the medicines or the chemicals that are needed in that business. But what are some of the challenges that you tend to contend with in this kind of business, and how do you deal with them?
Thank you, Charles and Ronald. This is a business that has a lot of challenges. But with challenges aside, the profits are too high that you will overcome. And there are a number of challenges you go through. For example, if I say it is hard work and every day, that even when you don't want to work, you must work to produce, to get that profit. The industry is rewarding, is profitable, but with hard work. You must be having hard work. But one of the challenges we experience is price fluctuations for milk. Even when there are price fluctuations, for example, today a liter of milk is around 1,000 on the farm.
Yes.
But you still break even depending on how much liters you produce.
Yes.
Depending on the costs you have undergone. Despite the costs of transporting the milk, then you still break even. That's something you need to understand. There are a number of problems. But one thing, before I talk of some, it is important to know that problems are part of the process. In working hard, in progress, in prosperity, you must undergo and solve certain problems. So when you start like that, you don't lose. So price fluctuations for the product, for the milk, we don't have standard prices. They are affected by the weather. During the dry season, sometimes the price goes high because they know you're going to get volumes of milk. But if you have installed, you have worked on good water and good forages, you are able to solve halfway that problem. Then there are diseases. As I said from the beginning, there are a number of diseases. Cows feed on raw grass from the environment. They are infected. So you must constantly treat these animals, drench them, what we call dosing. But then there is acaricides, which are fake on the market. You spray, the next day you see ticks. So you must spray constantly. You keep learning. You visit other farmers. You find out. If there are trainings, you attend and find out. So diseases is one of the biggest problems. And predators, you have a farm, you have a paddock, but neighbors want to graze their goats there. and they don't spray them. They grow the sheep. There are many animals on the farm which come in. And once you lose one cow, you see the pinch of loss on you. So diseases are a problem. Predators, those other goats from neighbors, sheep, dogs, they come in and bring in those diseases. And secondly, even when you monitor, milk is too sweet, people will steal. Workers will steal. Milk is so sweet. It's ready. As soon as it has come from the cow, it is ready.
Yes.
And so people on the farm have got to, neighbors influence the workers to steal some milk and give them. The one who is transporting the milk sometimes stops on the way, puts in water after selling some liters.
How do you manage those appetites?
It's a question. You keep working, you keep talking.
Yes.
You monitor. You monitor from the delivery point, from the source point. You keep training.
I hear you.
Yeah, so there are a number of problems. And then hard work, people get tired.
I get you.
You must have enough workers. People get tired. You can't fail to look after an animal, feed an animal every day on a daily basis. Yeah, so. And another problem is it's expensive. As I said from the beginning, animal drugs are not subsidized at all.
Yeah.
They come in the country, you have to face every price. And even the vet department, even you call a vet from the district extension worker, you have to pay.
I hear you. I hear you.
And so that's a challenge which the government should work on.
Beautiful.
And secondly, if you have not involved the family members, it's not easy to manage.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, you know, if you have a family business, like dairy farming as a business, you are sure you will be off one time. But you must involve children, you must involve other family members in the management of the dairy farm. For example, I have 3 boys. When they come home from Kampala, they must be involved. You don't take my tea unless you have been involved. Now, the one who is closer, if you have involved in the management, I'm not there.
Yes.
I say I'm going for a trip. Not necessarily for a trip, but I want you to see whether you can manage. Then you involve them in the management. They get experience. You help them to learn that you can get paid here better than where you are working.
That's a very important issue, Mr. Simple, because I know the number of parents who are watching this show, and probably they've established certain businesses, and they are struggling to interest their children into, one, loving what they are doing, but then just liking business in general. So I don't know, I really want you to speak specifically to them. How do you interest your children in business or in what you do?
Good.
By extension.
Number one is you must involve them in the management of the farm.
Yeah.
Now, once you involve them, you don't involve them free. If they are mature enough, they have left school, they are trying to work, you involve them and let them get some proceeds, let them get paid. If he's supposed to earn money, allocate him some liters of milk or some animals, but not land, not the farm, because this is a family program. This is a family business.
Yes.
If you divide the land, you know, people will sell or it will remain very small to produce.
I hear you.
You let him understand that once you have a family and you can participate in this, you'll get the proceeds. You'll get some income. Let him share on the income. If you involve him and you don't pay him, he will lose he will lose the interest for the farm. So you get them, and if he wants to do something, he wants to invest, allocate him some liters of milk or some amount of money, and if he has done some work, give him some allowance to see and monitor how he uses that allowance. Then he will develop the passion. If he sees that I can make better money here, he will develop the passion. He will grow into this business. Secondly, once you are going for a training, take them for a training. If there is another good farmer where they are doing well, take them for a trip. If in Christmas days, I used to take my boys to some other farmer in Mbarara. We go on a trip. We enjoy something through the town, but we go to the farm and see how they are milking on Christmas. And he should know it is work and he will get. But if you do it alone, one day you'll pass away, and that's automatic. Your business will die, and you won't even be comfortable. So I like the president, don't share the land. Share the proceeds from the industry, from the farm. And with time you will see who is passionate about this. Then I decide when I'm writing my will, I know who should take over this.
I get you.
Yes.
Very well put. Ronald, how do we wrap up this? I see quite a number of questions coming in, but before we go to the questions.
Yeah, I think Mr. Simple touched on a number of points. I'll possibly add a thing or two to the important case which he made about involving your family members and how critical it is that the family members, first of all, understand the business, they learn to love the business, but also you reward their work in the business. I think it's very critical what he talked about, that if a family member works in a business, they shouldn't be confused whether they're employees or they are family members. So, and sometimes many business owners put their family members in a difficult place because he came with you to the business, then you drove back with him, so he doesn't know whether he had to earn a salary like the rest, or the reward is the lunch or the supper which he took that night.
And you paid his school fees.
And you paid his school fees. So you find that sometimes, especially for the young people, they struggle to say, is daddy just using me and he's not going to give me some money? So it's important that there is a clear reward. And that should be set out clearly from the onset, so that the child knows that I am actually here working in this business, to understand it. Then making sure you blend it into other family events. I liked the point which he made about going to traveling, which would be more of a holiday for the family, but it is business related because we went to another farm, and on that other farm where you went, you saw what was happening. And you may find that sometimes you are trying to tell your children something, but they are not listening to you. They say, daddy, you will know. But when another farmer who is your friend, when he says the same thing, says that's exactly what we need to do, because that's the truth. So you may find that sometimes you need that networking too. You may, if you are running a factory and you're trying, if you have other colleagues who are in the factory business, just allowing your child to go into the other factory, your friend's factory, to be able to experience it differently outside the context of this specific factory where they are. That could be a big teaching, a big teaching moment. But there's something which he said finally about the will. And I think it's very important to notice that as a business owner, one of the things you are studying is, in my family, what are the strengths that exist? One of your children is good at bringing people together, but is also very forgiving. Everything can pass. Another child is possibly ruthless, but he gets things done. So you're asking, what combination of leadership do I need to create, assuming that I am to pass? And then it's also important to allow that to happen when you are still alive, so that you monitor how exactly it is happening. If the child starts in the business and is growing into the business, you may have to step back a bit and allow them to lead and make decisions, so that you can be able to see them from a distance. Now, when you mention the will, it's important to note that sometimes the person who is the best leader is actually a girl and not a boy. And you need to ask yourself, okay, how will the family receive this? Because in many of our culture settings, people expect that the person who is going to take over the business is a boy. But that's how the setup is. But you may find that the true leader in the family is the what? Is the girl. And she's the most passionate person. And I think that as a business owner, those are tough decisions you may have to make. To say that actually, I think for the sustainability of this business, we need to let this young lady take over. And if that happens, the other family members are also watching and they understand. Because if I have been a bit, every time daddy puts me in the farm, I'm the one who misses the deadlines, who doesn't do the things right, and I see another colleague who does it. When I look at daddy's decision, I would say that daddy left me out. I would say that actually there is evidence that possibly the other person is best placed. And the final thing is this division of land. Land creates a very challenging incentive, Because when you give me my part of the land, start saying, Daddy, do you know that this thing here, I can get 10 million an acre?
Yes.
Eh?
Yes.
And then he says, you have given me 5 acres. Me cut off mine and I will sell. And the man who cuts off is right in the middle of the farm. So he says, no, mine I have sold. You people continue with the farm, but I have sold.
And we need a road to this thing.
We need a road. So the cows now start walking around the land the man was sold. So it's important to ensure that we appreciate that there are some assets which need to be left in the whole for the sustainability of the business. And when you put this in the context of an ordinary business, possibly you should look more at shareholding, for people to have shareholding in the business, other than saying you take the factory, now you take the shop which sells, because there you have disintegrated the strength.
Already.
If I have a factory and an outlet in Chikubo, if I give the outlet to Chikubo to someone different and the factory to someone different, I actually am destroying the business. And that's why I think the picture which the land is the base on which the business is seated. So it's important to ask yourself, how do I keep this investment intact?
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So we have questions, and one of the questions coming to you, Mr. Simpo, is from Thomas Erot. He's from Katakwi. He's saying, thank you for the show. I'm someone who has interest in animal farming. I have tried piggery and I have interest in dairy farming. But when it comes to grass, I really need to understand more. What are the types of grass suitable for this farming? That's dairy. And what are the conditions for its growth? Can they survive in Katakwi? Over to you, Mr. Simpo. Briefly, there are quite a number of questions. Many people are really, really picked.
Thank you, Erot, for this very good question. And I have an experience because I started with a problem like this. Now, there are a number of improved forages. But before improved forages, we have local grass that can grow in the country. For example, we have Napier grass. We have Desmodium. We have alfalfa. We have Coriandra. Now, if you grow them on a separate land, separate piece of land, and you have a separate piece where you keep animals, you grow them, you must fertilize them. When you fertilize them, they will go very fast. Then you do cut and carry. If you do same grazing, same zero grazing, it means you will graze the animals on a free range for a number of hours in a day, and then for some hours you put them inside and feed them. You will be assured of high production of milk. There are those with 1 acre of land or 2. You can grow the forages and then keep the animals inside or in their pen on 100% zero grazing and grow the forages. Now, we have forages which appear in our country, but we have, of recent, improved forages from Kenya, like Morato, Saiman, Masai, Basilica, and a number of them. Now, these seeds are in the market in Kampala. They are shops for seeds, because I have been buying them in Mbarara next to Bushenyi. I have bought them and I have grown them. Even during the dry season, they survive, but they need a lot of fertilizers. Now, once you keep animals on the farm, then you are assured of organic fertilizers. You can't go wrong. You need hard work to take waste management. Now, those waste, you take them to the farm for the forages.
To fertilize.
They will grow very fast. You fertilize.
Beautiful.
It would be better if you have irrigation, but even when you don't have irrigation, you will not go wrong and you will break even.
Beautiful, beautiful. Mr. Simple, Solomon is asking, how risky is it as a starter to start in a free-range system?
Thank you, Solomon. In fact, it is the best way to start if you start on a free range. As long as you have a piece of land, it doesn't have to be big. If it is big, you keep the number of animals which are equivalent, which can survive on that piece of land. If you have 1 acre or 2, keep 2 animals or 3. Now, if you graze on a free range, you can put paddocks and keep rotating. Then the animals within 1 year will grow. The animals, by the way, what I've not told people, can buy their own land. 1 year, if you are patient, they will have, in a year, it's 9 months, a cow will have produced. Then your profits will be on the calf, and you have the benefits of milk. You get money every day. So I started like that exactly.
Great, great, great. Now, someone here is saying you train laborers, they go. How do you manage to keep workers on the farm for a long time?
Thank you, Solomon. It's important to understand that dairy farming requires labor intensive. It is hard work every day and every hour, and people get tired. But it is rewarding and it has profits. You get money every day. One of the areas to manage workers is to ensure they have enough food. If you are producing milk, let them take part of the milk and drink, but calculated. Pay them very well and on time. This is very important. We used to not pay on time and you'd lose workers every other day. Now you train them, or you take them for training, practical training from other farms.
Beautiful.
If you pay them well,
yes, they will stay.
They will stay. They will change, yes, but you will change after some time.
Well put, sir. Now I have Dickens. Dickens is from Kanungu. He's saying, this is so enterprising for me. How many acres of land do you use now, and how many cows and output from it?
Very good. I am keeping 35 animals, and I am milking 29 currently. One important to understand, Mr. Dickens from Kanungu, this is a very good question, is that animals will be milking when they produce high milk, but with time they go declining towards the 8th, the 9th month. Now I am keeping 35 on a 60-acre farm, but 4 acres are meant for, separated for growing the forages. So if you feed the cow on free range, it will give you milk, but not the maximum. You know, you have left milk in the cow. But if you feed it very well, look after it very well, you'll get all the milk from the cow. Okay. So I decided to grow forages on the side, so that when they have been moving around free range, at 10:30, they go inside and they find feeds. Okay. And they stay there up to 1, they are milked, they go out. You ensure there is enough clean water for the animals regularly, because they are not going to ask you to drink water. They need to know where the water is, and they will take themselves there. Beautiful. So I think, and in 29 animals, some of them are milking highly, some of them are weaning. But I now, in a day, I transport around 150 liters of milk, and I leave 10 at home.
Beautiful.
5 are for the workers, 5 are for the house.
Great. Great. Now I have someone here, is Herbert from Kakiri, saying, what's the minimum amount one needs to start a dairy farm? And then for you, Ronald is saying, how is Enterprise Uganda helping the youth? He's saying mobilize cheap sources of funds to engage in farming. I think I can start with you and then come over to Simple.
Yeah, I think one of the things which platforms like this are part of the conversation of looking at possibilities, but I think specifically on sources of financing, one of the things you'll notice is that most financing is not very responsive to starting. Every time if you walked into a bank and you say, I want to start a dairy farm, they say you come back when you have 3 cows. At that point we'll be able to talk. Now what happens is that means that most of the starting is going to start in a small setup, the same way Mr. Simple told us he started his journey, the first cow after a year, and that saving is what you're actually using to be able to start. However, there are a couple of programs which government has put in place for, I think some of you might have heard of the Youth Fund, which some financial institutions offer, and a couple of other programs which actually push to be able to start. Actually, if you think about specifically the aspiration of PDM, it is that if I want to be able to start out in my village, I should be able to have an easy access of financing. And actually, specifically, the financial inclusion for PDM is targeting that group, that group to say that I can be able to start out. But I think many times you need to notice that there are much more young people who want to start than the resources which are available to start. But always you start with the available resources, and the available resources may not be cash. One of the available resources Mr. Simple started with is the farm of his uncle. Actually, he didn't have land, but his cow was grazing on another person's land. Great. So that is using those available resources.
You've actually tackled that other next question as well. So I'll move right away because the questions are many to Mukeka Dennis's question. Mukeka is from Ajuman district. He's saying, do you offer training at your farm and at what cost? Mr. Simple.
Oh yes, thank you, Dennis from Ajumani. Dairy farming is not done by an individual. And if you do it as an individual, you won't harvest a lot. Yes, I have had some people who come for training, organized by the cooperative society in our area, or individuals who come, who have the passion, who have the interest, to come and look at, and you train them if they have the passion. Now, but I've had like in a year you get 4-3 trainings, people who come in. Some of them were supported by another organization which was interested, SNV, brought members, the dairy farmers, on feeding, to come and see how the animals are feeding and where the feeds are coming from. Now, the cooperatives were encouraging people to pay 20,000. And I would spend that 20,000 on their lunch and tea to ensure I offer you the knowledge, but you should feed yourself. And secondly, people who are from subsistence farming and living, they may call it a way of life. Unless you have invested in something, you will lose the love, the passion for it. So at a minimum, pay something a cost, and then you value it. So I've been charging 20,000
for training.
For training.
I think as we end, you'll be...
But not individuals.
I hear you. You'll be leaving your number and contact.
Yes.
I think for sharing. Now, I have someone here. Henry Kasigas is from Masaka. He's saying, I'm a teacher, retiring this year. How can I do dairy farming with a small land I have? Is it safe to invest my gratuity money in dairy farming, since I hear that animals die very easily? How would you advise him?
Oh, thank you, Henry. It is a safe, dairy farming is a safe venture, although animals sometimes die. But human beings die, but you produce children. So, dairy farming, as I think I will repeat it several times, is a profitable business, is a rewarding business, but demands hard work.
Yes.
So I would encourage, especially civil servants, or people who have been in civil service, if you retire, it is a business you should go into. But you should have started before. Even when you have a small land, currently with the new technologies, people don't graze free range. You can have a small piece for free range, but what I'm advising, grow the species, improved forages of grass, which are going to feed the animal, to give you the amount of milk that is going to break even. But the way when you start, you may not have the milk to sell. You may have a heifer, but you need to have that initial capital. Once you have invested in your money, you must be committed and determined to ensure you succeed. And once you are determined, then you look after the cow, feed it very well, ensure its health, and then when it produces, you will not go wrong, I assure you.
Beautiful.
But you must be committed to do hard work, to monitor very well. And as a man who is retiring, I have seen many retirees who say, who go, especially teachers in my area, you see them looking for contracts. You have retired, and what I hear them mention many times in parties, retired but not tired. No, you are tired. The government has seen. They made a research that at 60 years you are tired. But if you have invested properly, your salaries, then you should be able to take up an investment that is going to give you cash flows that will manage you. At a retiring age, you know you need some money to look after yourself. You need to remain happy. You need to attend social gatherings like burials. So whether you have assets or not, you need some cash flow. One good cash flow is dairy farming. There is milk. Besides the income you get, you'll get some tea. You'll have milk, food security. Once you have taken tea, once I take my breakfast, tea, and maybe a banana, I go to the farm, I walk comfortably, I will come back for lunch. I may even get late lunch.
Great.
2, you will be a sick person at that age, and you need cash flows to go to the hospital.
True.
If you have a plot, are you going to sell a plot because you have to go for treatment? So you need some cash flows. And the passion, when you look at animals grazing in the evening, you really feel at home and you don't think badly.
Great. Now I have Winfred from Kazo. He's saying, I have a challenge of keeping many workers on my farm. How can I know the right number of workers to fit for a farm? Few, but productive. And I think Ronald will weigh in on that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Winfred. This is a very nice question. At the beginning I said that I have calculated that when I supply milk, when I sell milk, the first 15 days are invested in the workers managing the farm. And the next 15 days are for me and my house.
Yes.
Now, what do I mean? What does it mean? I have calculated. Can my milk pay the workers? Yes. If you have 3 animals or 2, would you keep 5 workers? No, you need 1 to support you. Now, once you have reached 10 animals, then you need 2. But if you have like 20 and above animals, and depending on what they have to do, if you are still correct, if I had not created a reservoir for water and flowing water, I would have more. So depending on how you have solved, but you must ensure they have the margin and they are paid by the farm. But at the beginning, you must have the capital to invest in yourself, because the cow is not going to milk the next day you buy it. The next day you have it on farm, it may not milk. Secondly, not all animals will milk the same way. They are like human beings. So it's a question of calculation. And do not overwork your workers. They will go away.
Thank you very much. Now, Peter is asking, before I bring in Ronald, Ronald is going to do the wrap-up for us on this. How much is Peter from Kampala, is a dairy heifer on average? How much can he get one?
Yeah, thank you, Peter. If you want a heifer, a Frisian heifer, if you want a Jersey heifer, commonly in my area it's around 3 million.
Okay,
3
great.
million.
That's well put. Ronald, how do you wrap this for us?
Yeah, I think we want to thank Mr. Simple for breaking down dairy farming for most of us. And even the people who are not in dairy farming, I think, picked a lesson or 2 from his journey. I just want to reiterate the power of process.
Yes.
The fact that his journey, which we are celebrating today, is a journey which is over 20 years old. Yeah. And I think we need to appreciate that that is how most businesses grow. Okay. They grow over time, and they usually take time. And if you are starting out and you feel like it's a challenge, like you're not making it, it is part of the journey. Mr. Simple told us about the animals which he lost in 2010. Yes. So it is part of the journey. But also, there's something which he mentioned about the importance of work. Even though you are retiring into dairy farming, you need to actually appreciate that you are getting a new job now as a farmer. And the same way you respected your teaching job, you need to respect the job of being a farmer. So a farmer is not a place where you go and say, I'm going to rest there. You need to say that I am actually going to work there. And this is work in my own control. So we need to appreciate that agriculture is a business. We usually talk about farming as a business. And I think Mr. Simple's story really highlights what farming as a business is. And the aspiration is that actually we have more business farmers, farmers who are running agriculture as a business, because that's where the transformation is going to come. Mr. Simple said he's looking at making yogurt as the next step. Now that means the value addition is coming, and that is the transformation which we expect.
Thank you, Ronald. Mr. Simple, your number, and then we end this.
Yeah, thank you, Ronald, and viewers. As I said, I come from Sheng. My number is 0772 313024.